Let me ask the first question. How do you guys sell this thing? How do you get ads? Who's your Dwight Schrute? Yeah, all three of you, yeah.
You want to start, Tim? Or?
We don't. The answer is that we don't. If somebody wants to buy an ad, they can. It's not something that we market for the reason that I think you, Stephen, alluded to at the beginning. The cost of acquiring advertising at this level is one that stymies the New York Times, which is not set up to do that.
So at Patch, we look at the world in three buckets of advertisers. There's the local, the small business owner in a community, which are vital constituents for Patch, so first priority. Second is the regional local, so that's the college, the hospital, the major car dealer or furniture dealer. And the third is the national brand that wants a very local presence. So an example would be Bank of America, that wants their local branch to really be the bank in town where everyone knows the bank manager and there's events happening there and things like that. So the way we handle it in terms of sales is we have we're just in the process of building actually a on the street sales force that mirrors in a lot of ways our editorial team. And we hire local ad managers who act as evangelists for the site and also go out and sell our advertising products. And then on the regional and national level, that's one of the ways that we partner with AOL. AOL has great relationships with some of the largest brands in the world. And the demand for Patch as a local solution has been fantastic so far.
Thanks. Michael?
Yeah, for the alternative press, we have commission-only sales people in a number of our towns. These people are local residents in that town who are very active in the town, and they've done a fantastic job. And in addition to them, then the rest of us also sell advertising, like myself, and we basically speak to local businesses. And the case is really compelling. It's a really compelling case to make to local businesses why they should be advertising online. So far, it's worked for us.
Okay, questions out here. Oh my God.
My name's Leila DeKretzer. I'm the publisher of DNAinfo.com. We cover Manhattan local news. We are, at the end of the month, we'll have 1.5 million visitors a month. So which brings me to the question of one of the earlier slides was content and then sales. We very much in our organisation focused on paying for content, professional journalists. It built an audience. We believe we have quite a loyal audience in those neighbourhoods, and now we're selling to them. Is this what you guys have tried to do? Because the numbers don't seem to say that. Or are you putting in the sales and then believe you can build your audience separately? Because in order to really sell that advertising effectively, you are going to need a very loyal audience in those areas that you're covering.
Who wants to take that?
Is that for anyone specific or? Oh, okay. Well, the way we set about building Patch was first phase, build the audience, build a product that people like, and become the local homepage for someone, not just on the site, but really reaching people wherever they want it, if they want it on their mobile device, and giving them, I like to boil it down to the 10 most important pieces of information that you need to know. If you're a mom on the go, taking your kids around to all the soccer practice and everything else that you have to do during the day, you can quickly jump on Patch and find out, oh, the deadline for my beach pass is tonight, as well as the hard news and the important things. So we spent the first year of our lifespan building that kind of audience connection. And the second part is, okay, how do we engage the local businesses to use Patch to reach those people in the same kind of way? If the 10 most important pieces of information are coming through to you on Patch, 3 of those should be that the car dealer has a 0% financing, the local restaurant has a 2-for-1 special, and the grocery store is offering beef at 50 cents a pound. I don't know, I made that up, but that kind of information is just as important. So what we're trying to do is engage the audience first, and then go out and leverage that audience and use our product to connect with them. The question was, are we selling display for branding, or are we selling direct drive to retail? And we're doing both. Some advertisers really want branding. The car dealership wants to get their name out there. what we think is most effective and what I personally believe the future of local advertising is something more similar to, here is a actual deal that you should go take advantage of in a store and get people to, first of all, it's useful information for the consumer, and it's actually going to drive the revenue needle for the advertiser as opposed to just branding.
Michael, you want to add something to that real quick?
Well, I just want to say, with us, we pay for everything that so when we get advertising in, we use it to fund our content. As advertising revenue increases, we put out more content and we launch more towns and things like that. So I think, and that kind of goes back to the model that seems to be working for us, is slow and steady, but at the same time doing it in such a way that we are getting back as much cash as we're putting into it so that we're able to fund our operations and continue to expand.
This is great. This is kind of like Jerry Springer, and if Michael and Warren would fight again, we could have like one of those shows.
We'll do anything to please the crowd, so,
Well, thanks for all of you for being here. My name's Andrew Humphrey. I'm an MIT alum from Detroit, Michigan. It's good to be here today. One of the things that a couple of you brought out, and was one of the concerns I had, are all four of you concerned about shortchanging the poor in poor communities in terms of news coverage. For example, Warren, if you're basing your news coverage on income of communities, doesn't that automatically eliminate poor communities? Or for example, Michael, you're already in affluent communities. If you use a lot of students, well, there are a lot of student volunteers from middle school all the way through higher education that are in poor communities. Have you thought about utilizing them and their resources? And Camilla, if you're using bloggers and social media as part of your content, well, aren't you automatically missing out because of the digital divide? And those not only poor individuals or families who don't have the technological resources to reach the internet, do social media, but even poor infrastructures where schools and libraries are shutting down. So social media basically doesn't exist in those areas. And for all of you, if you're also partnering with local news stations or even larger media companies who you already admit don't want to serve hyperlocal or these communities in the first place, well, how are they useful to you when it comes to serving the poor or poor communities?
It's absolutely true that when Patch launched, our algorithm led us to very similar affluent communities. It's not that it wasn't by design. We were a startup that needed to make sure that our model was going to be successful, so we went to the most commercially appealing markets first. But at this point, Patch is much more than that, and we really believe that it should be and could be useful and helpful anywhere and everywhere, and probably even more so in communities that are ignored or underserved by traditional media. So we're taking a lot of steps to get there. We launched the Patch.org Foundation to be able to initiate conversations with community foundations in poor and underserved communities. We've had a lot of great conversations. Hopefully we'll be able to do a deal soon to get some of those sites live. We're working with the City University of New York to cover Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, which was not one that would show up on our algorithm, but we felt like it was important to cover, and it would be an interesting way to start off that kind of the idea of trying a neighborhood that traditionally doesn't get a lot of coverage compared to its neighbors like Park Slope. We are very aware of that. It's something that we want to change about Patch, and you should see that happening more and more this year and next.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think that's a great point and great question. I think in terms of outside in, we are not focused or prioritizing any neighborhoods or towns or anything like that, but we definitely are all very passionate internally about local bloggers, and so we actually have our community manager here, Esther Brown. She is always outreaching to the blogger community, and we have a series on our website called Bloggers We Love, where we're profiling bloggers we feel are covering their neighborhoods really well, hoping to inspire other folks to blog about their neighborhoods, giving out tips, best practices, how do you get the word out there, how do you get eyeballs, how do you get users to come back. And we're hoping that by sharing some of this with a bigger community, that we are sparking more people to blog no matter where they are in the country.
I think what we're doing in terms of working with the not-for-profit in Paterson and New Brunswick, I think is really one of the best ways to do this. And I'm looking for more such opportunities like that, whether it's through licensing, whether it's through partnerships with not-for-profits, with universities, to bring the alternative press to more distressed areas. I mean, you know, when I was 21, I ran for mayor of New Brunswick, and I ran as an independent. And I'll never forget that, you know, because what I learned there was really important, and the fact that, you know, now that where we are in terms of where I live, I don't forget where I come from and what I've seen, and I wanna bring the site to all areas of the state.
Jim used a very interesting phrase, called this what the Times was doing is a journey of discovery, and I think we're all on a major journey of discovery with many things that are going on, and they're happening very fast. And what one of the challenges that you face in attempting to build successful business models is I'd like to hear from each of you on the subject of paying writers, including bloggers.
I think that the marketplace ought to function, and that if people only will write where they're paid, then they should only write for places that pay them. And if people are attracted to an audience, and that compensates them, that's another way to compensate them. And I think that there are no hard and fast rules about this. The amount of content being created by people. Now, Clay Shirky charges for copies of his book about the amount of content that's being created for free, but there's an awful lot of content being created for free, and there are many people who would be motivated by getting a bigger audience for their content. So that might be another way to compensate them if the money isn't there.
I agree with Jim completely, actually. I think that, you know, in my experience, for us at Patch, we believe in paying for journalism. We believe that there's certain types of news that need a professional, someone who's been trained in the science of journalism, and we practice that. So that's important. I also think that, as Jim said, there are people who are motivated to get their words out for other reasons, just to get a larger audience. And our goal at Patch is to do both, to pay for high quality journalism and to provide a platform for people who just want to get their views out publicly.
Great. Thank you. I appreciated the hyperlocal smackdown earlier. I thought that was very refreshing. Spoke to a couple of hyperlocal journalists earlier today and tried to get them to come here. And they said that basically that this was the Whole Foods of hyperlocal journalism. And they voiced some concern about the integrity of the editorial staff maintaining a higher level while also answering, of course, to the almighty dollar. So looking for yourselves, what do you see as your greater mission in terms of maintaining that integrity and being truly hyperlocal while also trying to build a business model in a very difficult landscape?
I don't understand the question. What is the conundrum that you're posing?
Well, basically, the hyperlocal journalists I spoke to felt that you really weren't hyperlocal, that you were basically in a business model that was not answering to Brooklyn Vegan, Evie Grieve, some of these truly hardcore. They said the comparison between Whole Foods and a local farmer. So they were wondering what you were doing to really sort of draw that true hyperlocal experience in, while at the same time answering to the advertising dollars, and if that was somehow tainting or affecting your journalistic profile.
There is no way that our hyperlocal effort could be accused of being tainted by advertising. Although, interestingly, you mentioned, I mean, I think some of the sites you mentioned, you know, when NYU, when we said that we were going to be in partnership with NYU in an East Village website, there was concern that we would, I don't know, that some kind of plantation thing was going to be taking place. I think that, yes, that was the one that was employed. So I think that if the New York Times in this setting can help bring an audience to sites like Evie Grieve, or the many, you know, extremely good sites in Brooklyn that our local in Fort Greene links to, then we're doing an honorable thing.
And then bouncing over to some of the larger global business model that you're looking for. I mean, it comes into question when people start to look at, you know, the AOL family and Huffington Post, and you're getting an awful lot more attention than you were getting before. So as a result, in looking at sort of that paradigm between eating whole foods or real food, where do you see yourself landing?
Yeah, from the patch perspective, I think I try to take it to the level of the resident of a town, and if we're providing a service that they really need and want, and if there really was a void there that we're filling. So far, the answer has been yes. There has been a void, and yes, the market is showing us that it's being filled. So we feel good about that. In terms of the local connection, I mean, it's always going to be hard for a national company to claim that they're local. What we strongly believe is that the journalists who make the decisions about the content that is on the site, make the editorial decisions, write about, decide what's most important every day, live there, work there. We are a support organization back in New York providing the platform and guidelines and best practices and data and all that other good stuff. But really, we like to think of what we're doing as building infrastructure for towns that then can be used by the journalists who live there and write and work there every day, as well as organizations and people who want to voice their opinion on virtually anything.
All right, another question.
Hi, everyone. My question is directed concerning the college students, how you were talking about your involvement. Now, I know that a lot of you said that you had utilized them either through internship programs or as local bloggers. And I know in your case for the alternative press, you had said how you're using them for some of the inner city endeavors. But I was wondering, have any of you ever explored possibilities of maybe either creating subpages or separate hyperlocal projects to kind of hone in on the college communities? Because I know I'm from Jersey City, and it's not your quote-unquote college town, but I know that a lot of students could flock to something like this. And I was just wondering if that's one avenue that you've explored yet.
So college kids, what do you think? Larry King
yes,
now.
we have explored it. That's part of our Patch U program. So far, we have students working mainly on regular patch sites, but we are hoping to launch patches on college campuses as soon as we can. So it's something we're interested in. I don't know if you're...
Yeah, I mean, we're also interested in doing that kind of thing. And just to go back to the other question, the alternative press, we don't have an editorial page. People can write letters to the editor, they can write guest columns, but you'll never hear from the newspaper, from me, how to vote or what to think about things, which I think is really important. We also don't allow comments on the site, anonymous comments on the site. People have to give their name, and they have to write a letter to the editor or a guest column. The other thing I wanted to mention is in terms of the business question from before, just to cycle back to that. I'm in the Rotary in Berkeley Heights, and we can't get a meeting announcement in the local paper without paying $200, not Patch, the hard copy newspaper. When my wife and I started this, we said, you know what, businesses, organizations, residents should be able to get their news and information published without somebody having a handout asking for money. And so that's a really important thing with us. Advertising does not impact our editorial decisions or anything like that. And that's a really important principle to us.
Back here.
About 30% of Americans don't speak English at home, and they're very grouped in different neighborhoods. How are you addressing large Middle Eastern communities in Detroit or Filipino communities in Southern California, and et cetera, et cetera?
You just say you don't, and we move on. Can't do everything. You're barely making money now.
I think that's the New York Times has appears in translation in many places around the world, and I know that there is some discussion here about providing a Spanish language service in the United States, but we're not going to tackle immediately the hyperlocal issue. I have great faith in the people at Google that they're going to get that translate thing to work, and I think it's hugely important. There are also, there are wiki translate efforts that are happening on multiple fronts, and if that works, I think a lot of content can get translated. But people in their own communities are going to need to cover themselves too.
Yeah, but it's not just the content and the language; it's how they view the world, what issues are important.
That's right, and I think that these platforms that are being built can facilitate people. I have a friend who was a colleague at the Los Angeles Times who publishes East Sider LA .com. It's a really good hyperlocal site in Boyle Heights. Jesus Sanchez grew up there, and he is out there beating the bushes for news from his community's perspective, because WordPress and Blogger make that possible today.
Hello, I want to take it into international perspective. So we have been talking about technological companies, but how about those local regional hard paper publishers? For instance, Johnston Press in the UK, who own over 300 papers, but have been closing down each of their regional newspapers. What would your recommendation be for them to kind of make a jump from kind of hard papers to kind of hyperlocal news online, and leveraging the ecosystem of local journalists, which they've had on the ground for, let's say, over 200 years?
Right. Well, as a former newspaper guy myself, we looked carefully at newspaper profit and loss statements, and we looked at them trended over years, and we saw that our model would need to address the future of those papers. And the example you gave of newspapers in the UK shutting down is a tragic but good example. So my recommendation would be to look at something like what we're doing, where we've created a model where we can operate at 4.1% of the cost of a daily newspaper in a market the same size as the markets we're in on average at Patch. So I would say to the publisher of that group, look at your assets, look at the things that you can do without, look what you can use technology for, and accomplish the same or more and get in the hands of more people at 4.1% of the cost.
Wow, 4.1%, that's a heck of a number.
Ted Berger with American Towns. I was just at the Suburban Newspapers Association conference, and one of the best received presentations was by Deseret News CEO, who said that if we are going to have effective local news, we are all, as in the newspaper industry, going to have to lower our costs in the things that aren't so critical in order to be able to afford the essential elements of journalism. I've talked to all of you and heard very similar things to that, but I wonder if you could each kind of give your take on that from where your business sits. And it strikes me that maybe where journalism is, where traditional media, traditional newspapers are, and where you are, maybe isn't so different.
First of all, hi, good to see you. I would say from our perspective at Patch, we are adamant that we're not trying to solve the journalism problem as a whole. That's Jim's job. We are focused solely on the problem that exists in the community right around you. So, there's a worrisome trend in global news coverage. There's a worrisome trend in national news coverage. As much as we would love to fix it, we're trying to fix the problem that exists when you don't know the information about making a voting decision in your small town in the Midwest. So that's where we stand on that.
Somebody mentioned Burrell. Burrell is having an event next week here in the city, and Clayton Christensen is speaking at it. And I think anybody who's been a publisher or an editor at a metropolitan newspaper or a local chain, knows what it's like when your business explodes underneath you, and the newspaper industry, to say the very obvious thing, where it was making disproportionate profits for years and got fat and happy. Nobody's fat anymore, and some places are learning how to run on lean, and some places can't get there. But that's why capital markets exist to fund new things. I'll revert back to where I started. We have to have reporting, and we have to figure out how to pay for reporting. And if communities determine that they don't value that, I guess we'll see. I suspect the market will respond to that.
I mean, I think a lot of you might have heard Jeff Jarvis quoting this quite often, but, do what you do best and link to the rest. I mean, that's something that's resonated with me ever since I started at Outside In. And, I talked to hundreds of local publishers of all sizes all across the country, and a lot of them are struggling to try to do everything on their own. And that includes covering every neighborhood in their market, selling locally in all of those markets and neighborhoods, as well as moving to the latest and best CMS, building a new iPhone app. There's a lot of stuff to do to try to catch up, and I think the focus on what newspapers do best, which is reporting, editorial curation, has been kind of taken off focus. And so at Outside In, we try to provide some tools to help with getting back to the focus of what they do best.
This question is for Warren.
Hi.
How do you anticipate Arianna Huffington's arrival is going to affect your business and editorial model?
Well, I've been working on my Greek, which is not going that well.
You ever worked for a woman before?
No, we're excited. So the Huffington Post has done something remarkable with, bringing together professional journalism and also providing reach and voice for a lot of bloggers out there. How Patch will work with the Huffington Post is yet to be determined. I think we're going to continue on our path of serving communities the way we serve communities, and whatever lessons we can learn from the Huffington Post. I think more on sort of they do social very well. They are very good at making sure the content goes viral. There's a lot of lessons that could be shared probably between us. One thing that we're adamant about is that Patch is, as Michael was saying about the alternative press, Patch does not have an opinion. Patch does not take a side on any issue. It's a platform for equal representation of opinion on any issue, and we're going to stay true to that forever. So we're excited to be working with the Huffington Post and the really smart people that work there. I think they have some great technology. I think Arianna has a great vision for media in general. Politically, we are straight down the middle and don't take a side. Does that answer your question? Oh, great.
It's a question to Michael and Warren. I'm interested in how you guys are compensating a news provider, i.e. journalist. What is the optimal pay for performance compensation for a journalist? Because I know, newsrooms are sort of fortress in the name of journalism, which is very precious, but, you see a lot of, work to do, cutting those costs.
Yeah, well, at the Alternative Press, we pay all of our journalists. We pay them per story based on experience. Our pay range goes from $30 a story up to about $55. And we also pay our columnists, but it works differently. We pay our columnists based on unique views. So it's basically we pay $25 for every 1,000 unique views that their column gets, which is higher than the standard that you get on these other, like Examiner and stuff like that. But that way we're paying for all of the original content that we're generating.
And our model is slightly different. We hire full-time employees to be our local editors, and we pay them a competitive base salary plus a bonus. And it's typically in the range that you would expect for a local or regional daily newspaper. 75% of our editors make the same or more than they did in their previous job, which gives you a sense of the range.
I was wondering how much of your business right now is coming from the mobile platform.
Anybody else?
Our answer to that is irrelevant to this discussion. It's large and growing. I mean, like many things that start from zero, it's very fast growing, and I think everybody understands that mobile, whether you define it as one of these or a tablet, is going to be immensely important.
Yeah, I would say that we're in the beginning stages of our mobile strategy. We have a lot in the works. So the usage right now is on the small side, but my opinion is that there's nothing more suited for local than mobile, and we want to reach people wherever they are and wherever they want it. So it's a big product priority for us right now to make sure we have patch content anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah, and just for us, it increased from about 10% our first year to about 30% last year.
Back here?
Yeah,
Are there advertising technology products that you found particularly suited to the small business owners who are many of your advertisers who don't have access to agencies and don't necessarily have creative staff on board that can figure out how to create and build rich media products that might be available to much larger advertisers? Is there anything that your companies are developing or licensing or using that that would help?
Well, on our end, there's a few. So we found that in the average town that Patch is in, 50% of the small business owners don't even have websites. So we're kind of introducing them to the web and web advertising in a lot of senses. So we try to make it as easy as possible. We will design banner ads, and we have a design team to do that. But more likely, it's things like creating their directory page for them and enhancing it where it's got all the relevant information. We, at a very affordable cost, we provide a video profile, so a little commercial that we can make about a small business, something that they've never had before that is online and they can share it any way that they want. And then I would say any kind of structured ad that gets a direct response is the #1 thing that we're working on right now. So it's a call to action. It's getting somebody a deal in their hand that will get somebody into the store. It might not have the pretty picture that the local advertiser tends to want, but what it does is actually move the needle for them more on a sales basis. So.
Yeah, and I think for us, it really comes down to customer service. So our marketing consultants, they put up people's press releases, they put up their business directory listings, they put up their calendar listings, and we also have independent graphic designers to design the ads for the businesses. Some of the businesses provide their own ads, and as long as it's to our specs, that's great, and we'll just put it up. But we really go the extra mile for customer service. We think that's really important.
Let me just mention a couple other things. If you're in this world and you're not familiar with a little company called Paper G, I would go to their website and check out their products. They're really, I hate them because it's one of the CEO is 21, but they're really smart. And I think anybody getting into this has got to consider the role of Groupon, which has been mentioned many times here at Google and Facebook, and be thinking about those things. Are they platforms, competitors? What are they as you get into this?
The only thing I would add to that is that I think it's really important that everyone at this table and in the group who's in this business challenge the status quo, even though the status quo is not that old on the internet in terms of internet advertising, and also recognize that local is very different than national and global. We're not looking for clicks. We're not looking for conversions. We're looking for people to take an action. So at Patch, we're constantly trying to reinvent, what internet advertising is all about locally.
So continuing on the mobile theme, as mobile becomes more a part of each of your businesses, how are you approaching advertisers and agencies and brands and convincing them that it's a viable platform on which to reach your readers?
My sense is that they're recognizing it. I mean, the New York Times deals with very large advertisers generally, again, not in the hyperlocal space, and they get it, and the bigger ones get it first, and then it's sort of, my sense is that it will trickle down.
Yeah, we don't have this yet, but I'll give you a taste of how I think I would sell it to a local advertiser. I think walking in with an iPhone and showing that the iPhone is geographic aware or location aware, it knows where you are, and showing them an app that shows a deal from their store to someone just because they happen to be walking or driving by it, that's pretty cool. And as more and more people start to use things like that, and there are a million of those out there, it's a fairly easy sell, I think. Yeah, I would agree. Okay.
At what point are any of the panelists considering video, audio as a hyperlocal media, or incorporating it?
We have lots of video on our sites, on our hyperlocal sites. It is so easy to create video on Vimeo or YouTube and to put it up there. I think it takes more time to edit a story and make it effective, but it's there, and I think it's important to facilitate people's telling stories, however, whatever medium they want to do that in. It goes for audio clips as well.
We also have a lot of video, and we're adding more every day. I think the most recent is a Patchcast, we're calling it, where it's a roundup of the daily, most important daily news items and events going on in the town.
Where did you get that idea?
Oh, is that something you do?
We have one called Timescast, but it's usually about Iraq or something.
That pesky English language, there's only so many words to pick from. So we do that, and then we, as I was mentioning, we have the commercial videos too. So business on their directory page on Patch can pay to have a video profile created about them.
We're aggregating video feeds as well whenever it's possible from all of the different content sources. I think video is definitely a huge area for hyperlocal, and we haven't seen in terms of volume of content coming through all that much just yet in terms of video and audio, but definitely an area for growth and lots of opportunities there.
And video is definitely, I think, the largest growing both usage and advertising category online, if I'm quoting my stats right, but yeah.
Okay, let's knock it off there. So I've heard lots of opportunity here. If you have an Arabic or Spanish language site with a passionate editor and a Dwight Schrute kind of salesperson, there's, man, world's your oyster. Let's thank our panelists here for a great job.